Kind of reminded me what Nathan was saying in our Sharpen Your Sword series. Like, if people are coming at you with this stuff, just put the focus back on Jesus. Don't get sucked into arguments you don't need to fight. Welcome to the Bible in 1 Year podcast, brought to you by two Brits and a Bible. If you like the idea of a casual chat about the Bible with a couple of mates, stay tuned in. You might find something interesting. This is for you.
Today's day 99, covering 2 Samuel 16, 17 and 18. If you want a brief overview of these chapters, they're in the description.
I think I'm first to start talking about something, but I can't remember what.
I have no idea, man.
Evening. 2 Samuel 16, verse 1.
Yeah.
When David when David wandered off wherever he was going from, and then Ziba, the steward of Mephi, was waiting to meet him, had a string of donkeys, saddled, bread, cakes, raisins, figs, skins of wine. Sounds a lot like his second wife, Abigail. Abigail? Yeah, Abigail. And I was like, a bit of an interesting parallel there. That was it.
It's so weird you said that, because I felt that Abigail vibes as well, and I was going to write that down. So we're back to Mephi, good old Mephibosheth. That's the mouthful. Mephi and his son Ziba. I didn't know it was his son, so I'm glad you said that a few days ago. Mm-hmm. And so the fact that it's all done, it's not prosperity gospel. It's not do good things because good things will come back to you. It's not that. It's not about reward. But still, it's just cool to see how often, when David made a good decision in the past, it's now coming to help him in the predicament he has running away from his son Absalom, right?
Yeah.
I just think it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it keeps that bond between Jonathan and David alive a bit longer as well, through his family and those good choices. I just think it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving forward into verse 7, this dude Shimei, give a little shimmy, shouting, get out, you murderer, you scoundrel, all the blood that you've done, all this kind of stuff. Like, his reputation has preceded him, good or bad. Like, before it was for slaying his tens of thousands, but for now it's actually you've killed someone and this has got out. Basically, your reputation will precede you. God forgives us doesn't mean people will necessarily.
Right.
Like, we're still going to face rejection, we're going to face abuse, but actually, where do we put our focus? Like, if we draw it from other people, that's when we're going to get very disappointed very quickly, because people let us down non-stop. But just trust in God.
Yeah, and I mean, as Christians, we're also called to forgive as best we can. We're not great at it, but the secular world won't forgive us. So you're right, there's that.
It also kind of reminded me, because David didn't get engaged in an argument. He's like, just leave him. Kind of reminded me what Nathan was saying in our Sharpen Your Sword series. Like, if people are coming at you with this stuff, just put the focus back on Jesus. Don't get sucked into arguments you don't need to fight.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So then I loved the fact that David says to Abishai, because they're all shouting at David, I think it's the Israelites are shouting at David at this point and saying, you know, just why are you such a bad king? You deserve to, you know, I love Absalom, blah, blah, blah. And David says to Abishai, when he says, let me kill this guy for saying this about you, my son, my own flesh and blood, is trying to kill me. How much more than this Benjaminite? Leave him alone. Let him curse. The Lord has told him to.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing the way that David is so good at keeping the focus on God.
Yeah.
So it links back to what you're saying about Nathan Sr., focus on Jesus. And I just admire that David tries his best not to care about what humans think and only care about what the Lord thinks.
Absolutely.
And I think we can all learn from that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Then I've got a dirty double I'll just quickly throw in, if that's all right. So Absalom ends up sleeping with all of his father David's concubines, King David's concubines. I believe that's a fulfillment of God's sort of disciplining David for sleeping with Bathsheba. I don't have the verse. If anyone happens to know that, feel free to comment. That would be great.
Oh, that is, mate. That's above our pay grade.
It's above our pay grade. We haven't said that in like 3 or 4 days, but it is way above our pay grade. Having said that, what is not above our pay grade is then Absalom gets advice from Hushai, the Archite, and Ahithophel, right? Or Ahithophel, don't know, comment below. One of them. And clearly Ahithophel's advice is better than Hushai's, but the people can't discern it for some reason.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you the reason in a minute. So they go with the worst advice, which ends up giving David the W in the end, basically. And I said it links to the prayer of David in 2 Samuel 15:31, when he says, please make Ahithophel's counsel to my son bad.
Yeah.
And one final thought I have on it is, quite often God will answer prayers, but he'll answer them in a way that you don't expect. So he doesn't make Ahithophel give bad advice. He just makes it so his son, David's son, Absalom, can't discern the good advice.
That's good.
Thank you, ma'am. I almost feel like I'm going to have like a little chart, like little gold stickers I give myself every time that you actually say something's good.
Because I miss that as well. I love it. Occasionally we both pull out stuff. I'm like, oh, no way, I hadn't got that. So appreciate it, dude.
Absolutely.
I found it quite interesting, sort of in and around that, basically. Like, it's not good advice. And it says in here as well, 16 verse 23, like, he's given advice to sleep with his father's concubines. Now, in those days, the advice Ahithophel gave was like that of one who inquires of God. So actually, it's not actually of God, it's like that. So kind of that counterfeit, false prophet type style, where it's like, it's going to be difficult to actually discern whether it's from God or not, because it will sound like it is. That's where we have to discern.
Very interesting. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Not quite that's good, but interesting.
Not that's good. I'm sorry. Not everything can be that's good.
It's fair.
It's good though.
Yeah.
All right. So I've got a couple more. You got a couple more?
So I was on the same little bit, really. Like you were just saying about discernment on like who you take advice from. Ahithophel on this one gave good advice that wasn't taken, and then he went and hanged himself. And that's why you don't put your hope in man, you put it in God, like we've been chatting about recently. If you put your hope in man, you're going to get disappointed. You know, we've
now that
a little bit.
That's good.
Cheers.
All right, that is. My next one, the king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake. And the troops heard the king giving orders. So it again links. I mean, yes, it's his son, so you'd expect him to be softer on his son in some sense. But again, just him extending love even to his enemies. And again, I think that was one of the reasons David is so good at not focusing on the human element and focusing on the Lord.
Yeah.
Because even his enemies, he's not that fazed by in some sense. He's like, no, I'm serving the big man.
Yeah. And
it's cool.
It's even so his actions, and this is the kind of that I think you're talking about in 18. The king is answering, I'll do whatever seems best to you, when he's talking to his advisors, and actually he's respecting people regardless where they're at in his life. He just knows who he trusts, and he will take advice from them regardless whether they're above him or below him in a sort of cultural standing. But it's his actions as well are just so clearly seeping into his troops, because a little bit later on here, where David is left hanging in a tree from, by the way, his 2.5 kilograms of long hair, because he didn't get a haircut, it got caught in a tree, he's left hanging. But his troops could have so easily killed this dude, seen publicly as David's enemy, but didn't, because by now they know that David won't want that. David won't do that. So actually the way he is acting has seeped through into his troops from the responses he's had to people that had killed Saul's son and run Saul through when he was dying, all that kind of stuff. Actually now his own men are not doing that, and it's just a real sign of leadership. Yeah,
well, that's true, but one quick thing adds, he's hanging in the tree, but Joab does still go and actually kill Absalom.
I forgot about that
as well. So that's kind of a little bit, I agree with what you said, but it's going a little bit against it, only in the sense that Joab is normally a pretty strong, counsel but Joab believes, I'm just reading this from Britannica.com, believe it or not, Joab believed that he knew David's interest better than David himself did, hence he did kill Absalom in the end.
Yeah.
But still, what you say is still true, that his actions do still seep into his men, just Joab was a strong one.
Which actually leads into me saying, after Joab did that, the king was shaken. He went up to room over the gateway and wept over his son Absalom, who'd done all this crap against him. And it's just true prodigal son, father-son mentality, where, like, despite the crap his family's putting him through, he's still just so in love with his family. Absolute prodigal son stuff.
That's really good, and it links so nicely to how God sees us. I love that.
Duty. All right, well, tomorrow's readings, 2 Samuel 19, 20, and 21. So why don't you beautifully pick up your Bible, get reading.
In the meantime, please consider joining us on social media at 2 Brits and a Bible and sharing this with someone to help spread the word of God.